Okay. Well, Gail, thank you for being with us on the Elevate Talk Show today and taking time out of your busy schedule. I really appreciate it. We're going to talk. Thank you so much for being with us today, Gail, and taking time out of your busy schedule. We're going to talk all things travel today since you are our traveling professional. So let's get straight into it. Can you share with us a little bit about your background and your history as a professional traveler?
Okay, certainly. So I fell in love with travel when I was a little girl. My mother went to Bermuda and she brought back some pink sand in a little baggie. And seeing that pink sand and just thinking about, oh, I wonder what this place is like, being on a plane, all like that, that captured my attention.
Wow.
I did my first international trip when I was a senior, when I had graduated high school, a road trip to Canada with my boyfriend and another friend, and just traveling, being on the road, crossing the border, all that was fascinating.
Wow.
Then when I went to college, I did my serious first international trip to Africa, and I was
Wow.
there for 3 weeks, staying with friends, friends of friends, and had
Wow.
just an exceptional time. And that kind of just really
Yeah. Got you.
burrowed into my soul. It made me realize that I
Right.
just want to travel as much as I can. And since then,
Right.
I've done trips international, across the
Yes.
country, different places,
Yes.
and have had a wonderful time doing it.
That's great. And you've done it for work, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've been a journalist for over 40 years.
Yes.
Started out doing the basic things, school board meetings, city council,
Yes.
those
Yes.
types
Right.
of things.
Yes.
But found a way over the years to start incorporating travel into my writing. And
Right.
so going to places, being hosted on trips to national and local destinations and international destinations, and then coming back and writing stories about it. And then just this year, this summer, I just launched my travel blog and
Yay.
my travel website,
Yay.
justgoanyway.com.
Yay. Yes,
And the whole
absolutely.
idea, the title of that is to encourage people to travel despite misgivings,
Yes.
fears,
Yes.
second guessing,
Yes.
not sure,
Yes.
uncertainties. Don't be
Yes.
afraid to go
That's right.
anyway. Just
Wow.
go anyway.
Wow, that's wonderful. And I love that you as a woman and as a woman of color have was so adventurous. And it's very popular for young people to travel now. I don't know how um I would imagine 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it may not have been as in vogue for a woman to travel by herself, and particularly for a woman of color. And so you have a very adventurous spirit because I think you've been doing this long before some of us have been doing it. You know what I mean? And I
Right,
love that.
right.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I started doing the very first, as a matter of fact, that when I think back, the very first trip, well, the trip I took to Africa when I was
Yeah,
in college, and I
yeah,
came back and I wrote a story about it and I sent it out. It took a year before somebody then contacted me, a magazine, and
yes.
said they wanted to publish my article.
Really?
I was so
Wow.
excited. Then it took a whole nother year for the
Yeah,
article to come out. I got
yeah.
paid $50 for that
Oh
article,
my
but I
God.
was so proud
Oh, I
that I
know
was
you
a
were.
paid travel writer.
Oh, that's wonderful. That was your entrance. That's great. So now, you've traveled extensively around the country, around the world. Tell us, tell my listeners and me, what's a good time? Is there a better time of the year to travel than another? Can you kind of give us some insights into that?
I would really, so you have to first determine what it is that you like to do, where it is you want to go,
Sure.
what types of things you want to do, and then kind of figure out based on, are you going to try and go during a particular area's off season?
Okay.
Do you want to go to a particular area because you want to do an activity that you can only do in the winter or summertime? So certain
That's
things like
true.
that.
True. That's true.
And then just trying to find deals that work in your budget
Yes.
and to accommodate the types of things you want to do, activities you want
Right, right,
to
right,
do.
right. I get that. Great. So now, tell me this. How do you prepare a person who
Do when you
might
go
be,
there, bells and so forth.
wow. So how would you prepare a person who might be flying for the first time?
I would just kind of walk them through what they should expect. from the time they arrive at the airport, well, even before they arrive at the airport, telling
Yes.
them, make sure you have this information before you leave home. If you're going
Yes.
international, you need to have that passport.
Yes.
One of the things I discovered years ago, I took my daughter on a trip to, and I showed up the counter with passports and documents, and then they asked for a letter from my husband to take my daughter out of the country. I had never heard of such a thing. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not divorced. My husband and I are together. And they said, no, in order to take her out of the country, you need a letter. I had to call him back to the airport, have him sign. It worked out. We left. But there are things you need to know. So you need to make sure you have your documentation, you have your information in hard copy form and maybe on your phone. I like to have a piece of paper that says, your itinerary. You have information. Are you picking up a car? Where do you need to go? Do all that research, have that with you. So that's the first thing. Second thing, arrival at the airport. What to expect when you arrive. What concourse or terminal you need to go to. About luggage, about how much. Make sure the bag's not too heavy. Weigh it at home. Make sure you know the restrictions. Going through security, what you can or can't bring with you going through security. Staying alert at the gate and checking the monitors as your flight, because you arrive at the gate. Sometimes they change the gate. They said it was 12. You're waiting there. You don't check the monitors. You're not listening. Make sure you don't always have those earbuds on.
Oh my God.
You need to listen to make sure you hear. They changed the gate. Now you need to go to 20 instead of 12. You need to leave. Be attentive. And then getting on the plane, telling them, here's what to expect when you get on the plane. Here's some of the sounds, the sights. Don't be alarmed when the plane comes down and you hear that loud kind of a roar. So the sensations, what to expect.
That's
all of
really
that, just
good.
walking somebody through so they feel comfortable. They have an idea. They're not taken by surprise.
That's very good. Our daughter, although we have traveled extensively around the country, but it's always been via car. She's 20. We're going to be heading into New York in October during her fall break. This will be her first time on a plane. And
really?
And although we've traveled many places, but it's never been by plane. It's always been by car, vehicle, van.
Right.
And so we've been doing some of the things you just mentioned about what to expect at the airport, what to expect when you actually get on the plane, the sounds and sights that you'll see and hear. So you just confirmed some of the things that we were already thinking and feeling. So just to alleviate some of the anxiety, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you just prepare yourself. And one of the things, when my daughter, she and I started traveling when she was fairly young. And I told her, one of the things I told her when we had a trip where we arrived from Mexico back in Houston. I felt relaxed. Then we had to catch a flight from Houston back home. And I feel comfortable. We got something to eat. And then we're heading to the gate just before the flight should have taken off. And I realized I had looked at I had the right I had the wrong concourse number. So it was like, we're at gate 20, which is just right over there. But we should have been at C instead of B. Then we had to run through the airport, ended up missing the flight.
Oh my goodness.
So I told my daughter at that time, I said, honey, things will happen unexpectedly when you're traveling and in life. And when they happen, you don't panic, you don't cry, you don't scream. You simply go find out, what do I need to do? So we go to the counter. Oh man, we just missed our flight. When's the next flight to get to Atlanta? She said, I'm sorry, that was the last flight of the day. So I didn't scream, I didn't cry. It's fine. She booked us into a hotel. We spent the night. I called my husband, don't come pick us up today. We'll be in tomorrow. But things will happen. Flights will be canceled. Sometimes it's your fault. Sometimes it's not. But you just have to roll with the punches.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing to understand, like you said, as a traveler, but in life in general. And I think if you don't if you're not flexible, you're going to break. You're going to have, an emotional, even if it's a mini emotional breakdown. And that doesn't solve anything. That just makes things worse. So I think that's good advice to say, you know what, just take a deep breath and recoup and figure out how to go forward in this. And I think that's huge. That's a big deal. So now tell me something. Do you recommend purchasing travel insurance if you're taking trips abroad? Do you do that yourself?
I have only purchased travel insurance one time.
Okay,
Last year, when my daughter was getting married in Mexico,
that's right.
I went ahead and bought travel insurance just in case. There's so many
Yes,
things going on.
right.
Any other time I haven't, and for me personally, now if you're a person who you are worrisome and it
Yes,
makes you feel better and you want
yeah,
to cover this, that, the other
right,
things will
right,
happen, and
right,
happen. Luggage gets lost, flights
right,
get canceled, flights
right.
get delayed. And if
Yes,
you have that concern about those things, then I'd say go ahead. That'll make you feel better and
right,
you'll be covered. In
right.
all the years I've traveled, and many of those things, I've gone to places and my luggage didn't come in. It came
Yes,
in later, was
yes,
fine.
yes.
I've missed a flight
Right,
because I did not calculate that I was on the other side of the world. And when it
right,
said 8 or whatever the
right.
time was, it was set in military time, and
That's
I was
right,
thinking regular time, and so I ended up
right.
missing that flight. But the
Yeah,
bottom line is things may happen. You might be delayed.
yeah.
Most of the things are going to happen that are not going to kill you.
Right,
So,
right,
my
right,
attitude is like, okay, I might be delayed. It might
right,
cost me a
right,
little
right, right,
money,
right,
but
right,
I'm
right,
still going to get there. I'm still going to get back. Every place
right.
I've gone, I've had a great time most of the time,
Yes,
even though there have been things that have gone
yeah,
awry,
right.
and
That's
that's
right.
just one of those things. So for me
Yeah,
personally,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
I just,
yeah.
if something
And
happens, I have to pay for it. I don't.
right now, and I may be wrong about this. Does and you may know more about this. Does travel insurance cover like medical emergencies? Because
You
that's what
have
I'm.
to read it very carefully. Some of it
Yes,
does, but it may only cover
yes.
certain things. And that's where
Okay.
if you're going to get travel insurance,
Yes,
read the fine print very carefully. Make sure you know
that's
what
good.
extent, what things they're covering, to what
Yes,
extent or
yes,
percentage. They may
yes,
cover $200 of your
yes.
medical emergency.
Oh
They may
boy.
transport you to, that's
Yes.
in the fine print. I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
all the details,
Right,
but you
but
need to
but that's
find out.
important.
You also want to find out through your own health insurance,
Yes,
what do they cover? If I go to New York and
yes,
I
yeah.
break my leg,
Yes,
yes, you'll
yes.
be covered. Well, if I break my leg when I'm in Morocco,
Right,
yes or no? So you want to ask
right,
those questions. You want to call your insurance company and say, I'm going to be going out of the country.
right.
If these things happen, what do I do? Am I
Yes,
covered? Am I not covered? And
right.
you can't ask questions. You can't find out everything, but you want to
No,
get
no,
some
but
sense.
yeah.
And then you want to make sure you have documentation with you or on your phone in terms
Wow,
of,
wow.
what is your insurance company, your health insurance company? What's the
Sure,
number you need?
sure.
I think it's always a good idea to take a list of your medications and
Yes,
any
yes.
information that's important that people would need to know if you did fall ill someplace
Wow.
when you were
That is
traveling.
a couple of stories about that. But what you just said, it's what it comes down to is do due diligence, do your
Yes,
homework. And
yes.
I think that a lot of times we get so caught up in the excitement of going on the trip, and aesthetics of it all, the luggage, the outfits we're gonna wear, the
Right.
places we're gonna go and see. And that's all fun and great. But we don't do this part. This is the not so fun part, but it's necessary. Two stories. One is some years ago, my sister-in-law has a good friend who went to the Caribbean. I'm not sure if it was the Caribbean or Mexico, but she went out of the country. And like you mentioned a second ago, I believe she broke her leg. And it was a bad break. And she could not get the medical care she needed in that country. She needed to be flown home via some
Hmm.
special back. I mean, what do you call helicopter thing? Anyway, she didn't get medical insurance, and it was going to cost close to $20,000 to get her flown home, and she didn't have the money for it.
Hmm.
She had to borrow money
No.
from friends and
Wow.
family. She had to borrow money from friends and family to get home. So, but I heard that the insurance is just a little bit of money, so it makes sense to me um, to get it if you think you might in any way need it. I don't know, but that was
Yeah.
once, yeah. So yeah, that was. I just remember that being such a big deal because we were
Right.
all trying to collect money for her to get home.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but she couldn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So and then recently, sadly, a friend of mine had a son that just died in the last week in
I'm
Mexico.
so sorry to hear that. Mm.
He had an intestinal um something. He got sick and he had an intestinal infection. I don't know whether getting him back was an issue. I just know that he did not get back. He was not able to come. He didn't make it home. And I just thought,
Right.
wow, I just wonder whether, whether getting him home was an issue and whether that would have made a difference between him getting the care he needed here in the United States. So I never thought about those things before, but I've heard these stories and I thought, wow, you really do need to make sure you know what you're doing when you travel, particularly when you travel abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. You're far from home. So you try to think about, well, what do I need if it could be something minor. It could be something major. I mean,
right.
Things that happen anyway that I know of. These are conditions I've had in the past, and maybe stick that in your wallet or stick that with your papers so somebody could access that information if you're not able to.
Sure, that's good. And that really leads to my next question about what do you do if you're in a medical emergency? Some of it you address by telling us to have things with you ahead of time. Have your medical records in digital form or maybe even in a physical form. Have your medications and that kind of thing. But have you ever had a medical emergency when you were traveling, and what did you do?
I'm very fortunate. I have not. In the 40 plus years of traveling, I've come back from a trip and, gotten that traveler's,
jet lag and all that.
Just kind of knocked me out for days, that kind of a thing. One time, last time him, and he told me before I came down, because we were city to Oaxaca, and that's about 3 or 4 hours away. And he told me, he says, well, we're going to be eating a lot of different foods and this and that. And he suggested I take a probiotic before I left. So a week before, I think it was a week before I started taking, I took it the whole time. I didn't end up having any intestinal problems. And we ate a lot of food in a lot of different places, and it was fine. So I think it's just one of those things where you try to take, if you're going to some place, especially someplace exotic, someplace outside the country, someplace that you haven't been before, do a little research. There are a lot of different sites that you can go to between, and just CDC, WebMD, and just do a little research. I mean, I don't think you need to go crazy about it, but just kind of find out, I'm traveling here. First of all, do I need to get any shots to go to a certain area? Is there any information I should be aware of? Anytime I travel internationally, I pretty much only drink bottled water, and of course, any drinks I'm drinking. But I don't drink. I try not to drink tap water. And I try. I usually, if I'm brushing my teeth, I'll use bottled water when I'm brushing my teeth. When I'm taking my pills. Yeah, if I'm international, if I'm here in the United States, I'm fine. I'll drink whatever.
But see, all of those
are just some of the things I do.
That's good. Those are really, really good tips that folks who haven't traveled or who may be looking to travel abroad need to know. And which leads me to my next question. The holiday season is coming up, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all of that. People like to travel during that time. Now, the airlines have lifted their, mask mandates, but the reality is that, of course, there's still sickness out there. There's always been sickness out there, so that part's not new. But we know that there are new COVID variants. We know that there's this monkeypox. I don't know whether that's an airborne thing or, what do you call skin contact, whatever the case, it's out there. And we're coming into the flu season. How can we protect ourselves from getting sick as we travel? I'm asking this for personal reasons because I know we'll be doing a little bit of traveling ourselves.
Right. I think you just have to be cautious to the extent that you're, or take measures to the extent that you're comfortable with. I mean, just like here at home, you go someplace and you see some people are wearing masks even in their cars. That's what they feel comfortable. That's what they feel like they need to do. So it's the same thing, to the level that you feel like now you're not required to wear a mask in the airport. I don't believe on the planes anymore. I'm not sure about. I think they dropped that. But if you're the type of person where it's like, I don't want to take a chance, we're being close quarters, then go ahead and put the mask on. Make sure you have hand sanitizer. Make sure you have some wipes. Be careful about the surfaces that you're touching. Like I said, I've seen people who they're wiping down the whole seat and armrest and all like that. If that's something that you feel like you have to do,
Right. Do it. Yeah.
I personally don't go to that extent. I
Right.
feel as unless I'm in very close contact with other people, then I
Sure.
would put on a mask. But
Okay.
most of the time
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and I haven't done a lot of plane travel. I think since the pandemic, I've
Yes.
been to Mexico twice,
Yes.
Costa Rica,
Yes.
and the Azores Islands
Okay.
off the coast of Portugal.
Okay.
And my husband and I, we took our masks with
Right.
us. We had
Yes.
hand sanitizer and those
Yes.
things. But
Yeah.
for the most
Right.
part, we didn't do anything. We didn't feel like we had to isolate from
Right.
anybody.
Right.
We went
Right.
out
Right.
and enjoyed ourselves, and we
Yes.
came back and we were fine.
We're
And so
fine.
far, we
Right.
haven't come down with COVID.
And I
So,
think,
you
and I
know,
think you're right. I think to the level that you're comfortable with, and also taking into consideration and into account your own underlying or any conditions that you may have. I mean, because if you have, somebody
exactly.
like my mother who recently traveled, I mean, she has heart disease. And
Hmm.
so I think, and then others, have high blood pressure, diabetes. I think knowing what you know about yourself, I think you need to render yourself accordingly.
Right,
So
right.
those are
And
some
get
of the
yourself vaxxed. I believe I'm fully
yes,
vaccinated and I get
yes,
my boosters and all like
right,
that. But,
right,
like I said, you do want to check with the State Department and CDC if you're
yes,
going to different international to find about
right.
if there are any diseases that are cropping up in that area, any
Oh
things you need
wow,
to avoid or be
oh
careful
wow,
about. And just kind of be mindful of those things. So kind
wow,
of going here, there's an alert about this. Okay, I'll make sure I don't
right,
do that or I do
right,
that.
right,
And
right.
just
Yes,
and then but still go and enjoy yourselves. I
yeah,
mean, the
that's
world
good.
is
That
fabulous, wonderful place.
it
And
is, it is, and I think we learned so much about. I think traveling helps us to tear down barriers because
oh
we
yes.
learn, that everybody doesn't have to look and sound and be like us, and that there's value in other cultures and in the things that they in their music and in their art and in their the way they celebrate. I think that's what I love about traveling. It just it broadens you.
Yes.
Wouldn't you say so?
Yes, absolutely. And also it shows you that the things that we see and we are so focused on in this country,
Yes.
whether it's the politics
Oh my
versus
God.
different issues
Yeah.
that we focus on so much, you go
Yes.
other places and you see things differently because people and do things in a different way. They
Sure.
don't have the focus on America like we do,
They
and it's
do.
refreshing to
Oh,
go someplace else and turn on the TV and they're
yeah.
not talking about certain
Yeah.
politicians all the
Oh my
time. They're
gosh.
talking about
Yes.
other
That's right.
politicians, but
That's right.
things are
That's
different. But it also gives you an awareness. I know when I went to Cuba,
yes.
seeing how it made me so aware of how we as Americans are so wasteful in
Yeah.
our like if you go and you buy a sandwich, the
Yeah.
sandwich is wrapped in paper,
Yes.
is
Yes.
the sandwich is wrapped and is then put in a paper bag,
That's
and you're
right.
giving all these napkins and
Yes.
plastic utensils. And I was looking outside the window of the place we were staying in Havana,
Yeah.
and there was a little shop below and people were getting something to eat and drink.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
giving people their drinks in little like teacups
Oh
and
my.
on one paper, and then the teacups were being washed and used again.
Oh
And I saw people
wow.
walking down the street with a loaf of bread,
Yeah.
carrying the loaf of bread under their arm to take to. So all that, I was
Right.
thinking in America, that loaf of bread would have to be in paper,
Oh my God. Yes.
then
Yes.
the paper thing would have to be
Yeah.
put in the plastic
Sure.
sack.
Yes.
And
So
there's
much paper
so
and
much,
plastic.
yeah, there's so
Yeah.
much waste
Yeah.
here
Yeah. There
because
is. There is.
this is how we operate. It's like
Yeah. This is
other
how we
places,
operate.
it's done differently, and
It
it just kind of
is.
it raises your awareness.
It does. It really does.
Sometimes it gives you things to appreciate about your country
Oh, it
that you
does.
didn't even,
Yes.
recognize all that much. You take it for granted. Then you go
Right.
someplace else and it's like, oh,
Wow.
electricity, running water
Yes.
isn't as
Yes.
readily available for
Yes.
everybody.
Yes.
I take it
Yes.
for granted because I have an expectation to hit the
Exactly.
switch, the lights come on,
That's
hit
it.
the tap,
That's it.
and the water
Yeah.
flows. And it's
You
not the
know
case in
what?
every place around the world.
That is so true. So it really can just increase your awareness. I remember years ago when I was a teenager going to the Bahamas. That was my first trip abroad. We were there on a missions trip, and the our tour person was showing us around, and there were various different homes being built, but the building was at they weren't finished. They were each at various different levels of being finished. And I remember asking the tour person, why aren't these how's this finished? I mean, when are these going to, and they said, well, they build at, according to how much I mean, they're building these places on cash. I mean, so
Mm.
they're not taking out all these big loans. When they have the cash, they do the roof. When they have the cash,
Uh-huh.
they finish the walls. When they have the cash, they put in the flooring. And I had never
Right.
heard of that before. And so
Right.
it
Right.
gave me an appreciation for how how they do construction there. I mean, at least
Hmm.
and so I didn't that was a real eye-opening experience for me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think, like I said, going other places, just the language,
Yes,
and
everything.
often
Yes,
just have, conversation you can have with other people about what their lives are like, and
yes, yes.
it's
It's
it's just
wonderful.
fascinating to me.
It's fun.
I have
So,
not tired, as many places as I've been. I'm not tired of traveling, and I will
oh,
go
that's
anywhere.
wonderful.
Next town over here in the U.S., or it could be across the globe.
That's wonderful. One last thing. Tell us again about your new website and your travel blog, and we'll put that
Yes,
on. I'll post that on the on this interview so that people can actually see it. But please tell us again about it.
sure. It's justgoanyway.com.
.com.
And on the website and in the blog, I talk about different places to go, the features, what you can expect, things you can do. I give tips about some of the things we're talking about,
Yes,
travel tips, and
sure.
who to get advice from when you travel internationally, waiters, and
Yes,
and
yes,
uh, different people can tell you local places to go.
yes,
Um, um, Stories that'll tell you about travel misadventures,
yes,
things
yes,
that have happened along the
yes,
way,
yes.
and
Oh,
how you
yes.
kind of work through it. And just basically encouraging people to get out there, post a lot of pictures of these
Yes,
places that I've been, and
yes.
I'll be updating information about hot deals, information, new hotels, and new
That's
properties
great.
that are opening, new opportunities
That's great.
in this country and abroad, and
Oh,
just trying
wow.
to share my love of travel with
That's
people who have an
wonderful.
interest, and hopefully encouraging people to get out there
Yes,
and travel, go
that's right.
somewhere, go
I
see,
love it. I love it. I've always enjoyed your posts, the ones I've seen on Facebook, and the fact that, and what you've done. And I just,
Oh,
and
thank you.
I think doing what you do as a Black woman in particular, I also think it breaks down stereotypes. So
That's true. Yeah.
I love it. I love. Well, Gale, thank you so much for being with us today, and I can't wait to share this interview with my viewers. We appreciate you. We'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Having me. It's been absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.